Time to fight fear with faith. Jody Paar is a survivor who is no longer staying silent. She and her guest will fuel you up so you too can fight fear. Uplifting and inspirational stories that will rock you to your core. We don't tiptoe around the truth. We steamroll it in a bold way. This is your life, and now is the time to start living it. Get ready for the Faith Over Fear podcast with Jody Paar. Now, welcome Jody Paar to inspire you.
Hey guys, welcome to Faith Over Fear with Jody Paar. You know I am usually like super pumped up and excited, but today, guys, God is so good, let me tell you, because my guest, I have to pinch myself several times, is Kimberly Jones, known as Real Talk Kim. And if you guys do not follow her, you have got to follow her. She is a world changer. Oh my gosh. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into real quick who she is. Kimberly Jones, known as Real Talk Kim, travels the world fulfilling her passion and purpose of loving people back to life. She is a mother, pastor, entrepreneur, best-selling author, entertainer, and most importantly, a worshiper after God's own heart. Woo, she is, y'all. Pastor Kim is the senior pastor at Limitless Church in Fayetteville, Georgia, and has two sons. She is a human rights advocate with a passion for giving back and believes in the compassion of the Holy Spirit, delivering it to those who need it the most. Pastor Kim is an advocate partner with Rock, Paper, Scissors Foundation, a nonprofit organization which exists to foster healing and give a voice to those who have been silenced from all forms of abuse and human trafficking. How awesome is our God that he aligns perfectly. Pastor Kim has been featured on Dr. Oz Show, Oxygen's Network series, Preachers of Atlanta, Your World with Creflo Dollar, BET, ABC Nightline, The World Network, CNN, Praise in the Park, Atlanta, magazines, radio shows. She is truly a living, walking testimony of God's redemption and plan in
action. Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
I'm turning it over to you, girl. I'm turning it over to you because you have the most amazing story of how fear turned into faith and then how God used you. So, girl, I'm turning it over to you now.
You know, I am super honored to be here with you and just sitting here, I'm getting to know you right now as I get on this podcast with you. And, you know, I'm a fan. I am a huge believer in women that have gone through something. The thing that you said to me when I first got on was I got saved from this all these years ago, and I never thought I would ever talk about it. And now that's exactly the platform that God is using you on. And so I want to talk to that person today that, man, you feel like you are so the enemy will wear you out with your past. The enemy will have you believing that your mistakes are final. If people ever find out really what's in your trunk, the junk in your trunk, they will not support you or they won't like you. And so I think with society, sis, we have put this barrier up that, especially with social media, that you just put up all your highlight reels and you never deal with the stuff in the background. And there's somebody listening today that just feels like it's over. And I just want to encourage you today and tell you it's not just not over, but it is just beginning for you. And I think when we get to that place where we can release every single thing that we're holding on to, you know, I always tell myself chaos and confusion is not of God. You know, we always think that once I get here, then I'll be great. Or once I do this, then I'll be great. Once I get married and have kids, then I'll be great. Once I lose 35 pounds, then I'll be great. There's always going to be another hit, another wall to hit in life. And if you don't learn how to stay on top of your emotions, stay on top of your emotions. Don't let your emotions rule you. If you are not intentional, you will stay in a season, allowing a season to last longer than it's supposed to. The season will literally last longer and you will allow yourself to get stuck in that place. So me and you are both perfect examples of God's grace. I was raised in United Pentecostal, and it was a religion that said, if you get divorced, you're going to hell on a slip and slide. Women couldn't preach. All we were good for was having babies and cooking. And man, about 14, I realized I didn't want babies and I didn't know how to cook, and I was scared. And, you know, of course, by the time I got older, I wanted kids, and I have two incredible boys now. But I think my whole life I was just fighting. I was fighting to find my voice. And, I found my voice in my pain. I found my voice when I was broken in a million pieces, questioning, where is God, right? Isn't that crazy how we do that?
Yes.
Like, if it wouldn't have been for that pain, if it wouldn't have been for walking through hell and coming out on fire, you would not know who you are today. The empathy, the sympathy, the anointing, the oil, that thing that makes you different came from the very season that you thought is going to kill me. The season's going to kill me. And ain't that true, sis? Every single time in life, when anything amazing happens, it always is on the heels of freaking hell. You know what I'm saying?
Always.
Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Always.
Crazy. So what makes us think that we don't ever have to go through anything, or we don't ever have to acknowledge? And so I think what I did, sis, was when I walked through my 17-year marriage, ended after 17 years. And man, I was beating myself up. Like, had to move back in with my mom and dad, because really when you're going through something, you don't just lose your house. You lose your marriage, you lose your house, you lose your health, you lose. It's just like, it's like a train effect, right? Because here's why. The enemy can't take you out, so he's trying to wear you out.
Ooh, yes.
He knows that on the other side of those tears, there's going to be something arise out of you that if you wouldn't have created those storms in your life, you did it. You did it. You might have God for it, but you did it.
Okay.
If you would not have walked through that divorce, if you would not have lost your house, if you would not have gotten cancer for the 4th time and had chemotherapy, you would not even have anything to talk about, because through your pain, His purpose is produced. Through your pain, the purpose that God has created you for is produced. And I did. I found it 36 years old, moved back in with my mom and dad. I was a special ed my whole life. Felt like the biggest failure. And at 36, I remember laying in bed. I was almost 37 years old, because I wasted like that whole 36-year-old year crying. I cried. I would lay in my bed, my mom and dad's house. I left at 18 to get away from them. And here I am back at their house. And I laid in bed and I would just cry. And I'd be like, God, you hate me. I was bad in baby heaven, like every single thing that I could. Just a victim in my own story. I had no friends. If I would have died, nobody would come to my funeral, because I had erected all of these walls to keep out the pain. And in reality, I was keeping out the blessings, which is relationships, friends. And laying in that bed one night, I remember almost at my 37th birthday, I was laying there, and I mean, my kids, I was a terrible mom. I was just laying in the bed depressed. Like, my room, I couldn't even find the floor. I mean, it was like, because really reality is your car, your house, your room, your bathtub. All of that is a reflection of how you feel about yourself. It just is. You let things go because you let yourself go. And that was me. And I remember one night laying in that bed, and my sons, man, they needed me. They didn't have a dad. Their dad was an alcoholic. And here their mom is feeling like the biggest loser. How did I even get here? How did this happen? That's what I remember this night, that things changed. And when I was laying in that bed, I just was laying there crying. I was like, all the joints, even, I'll never forget it. The joints in my fingers were aching. Like, I didn't even know that was possible. It was like everything that could hurt. I didn't even know where the pain began and where it ended. And that night, it all just came to a boil. And I just laid in that bed and I was crying. And I said, God, if you're not going to fix this marriage, because we're a lot of times afraid to pray God's will be done in our lives, because we're afraid the very thing that we're addicted to is going to get replaced. We're afraid to pray, God, reveal those that aren't for me. Reveal them to me, because maybe your spouse is going to be revealed. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're just scared really to pray, let your will be done, because for some reason we've put God in people form. And all those people that have broke our hearts, we think God's like them, because God is the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. You know, He is like this, wah. And if He couldn't fix all of these things that are breaking our hearts, then He must be a mean God. And then that's when we turn away from Him. Yeah. And laying in that bed that night, man, I just remember I started praying. I said, if you can't take this pain away from me, if you're not going to heal this marriage, take this pain away. It was almost a year of crying, eating ho-ho, scratching my behind, crying over somebody that wasn't even worth the tear. Right. You know, but the enemy will do that. The enemy will make you think that everything you had in your past is the best you'll ever have. That's right. Isn't that crazy how he has a way of making, the worst of times seem like it's great. He'll find the one day in 365 days, you'll remember the part day where y'all had so much fun together. And then if you forget the 364 days that were hell, because we are codependent on that pain and deprivation. We get almost to a place where we don't want to get healed because we like the attention being broken gets us. Nobody expects anything from us as long as we're walking in the pain of our yesteryears. We're over here crying. We are already the black sheep of the family. All of these things have happened to us, and people are real good about being there for the first week of you weeping and crying and having a heartbreak and walking through a death of a loved one. But after a week, they're gone because people only have so much empathy and sympathy. And then we're broken because where's everybody at? See, the enemy is constantly in our ear to stop us from moving forward because there's always a breakthrough after the failure. Always. There just always is. God does not waste hell. And if you are still laying in a heap of depression after your marriage ended 4 years ago, 5, you are the purpose. You're there because you won't get up.
That's it.
Right? Well, you don't understand, Kim. Yeah, I do. I may not understand your scenario, but me and you both are sitting here where we've had our pain. And yet we decided to get up and use our voices because we had something to break out. We had something to talk about. Break out silence. Look at that book you wrote, right? Break out silent soldier. You decided, I'm not going to waste this hell that I've walked through. I'm about to pull as many people as I can out of the pits of their hell, right? I'm about to tell hell to shut up, and I'm about to conquer. And so that's what I did. I laid in that bed that night, and I heard God for the first time. I said, God, if you're not going to heal this marriage, take this pain away from me. And I remember God said, I'm not going to heal this marriage because you never asked me if this was the one. Girl, I cried. It was almost like I knew what would heal it. I knew it. A whole year of me crying. I knew there ain't nothing good about this situation. But I didn't want, it's that finale. You know what I'm saying? You always know they're a player, or you always know that, you're good, something's going to happen, but you don't want to really face it until it comes crashing down. And that night, I remember God said, the first thing that you need to do, this was like the first time I really heard him even speak. And my dad was a preacher. But I just never heard God. I was waiting for God to, Kimberly, don't go rock. Because, I thought he was going to have this earth-shaking voice. I never dreamed it was a still small voice that he's going to speak to me through. That's why I stayed so cluttered. Because as long as you're cluttered, you won't be open to hear what God is saying to you. So that night I laid there and I said, God, take this pain away from me. And he said, I can't. You got to get up and walk away. And I was like, what? You mean you're not a genie in a bottle? You mean I can't do a dance in church and fall down and get up and everything be fine? No, you got to help God help you. What does that even mean? You don't need to help God. Well, you do. Because if God gives you a miracle of releasing you and it uses rejection to do it, and then you're over there trying to give CPR to dead situations, you're messing up the blessing. And man, that day I really realized, God, you are faithful. And that was a turnaround for me. That was a turnaround for me because I went from praying. I would pray every day, kill him with the train. Like I wanted God to kill my ex with the train. I mean, I prayed specifics. I was like, kill him with the train. Because I knew if a train hit him, Benny Hinn couldn't bring life back to him in a healing line. I had so much anger and hate in my heart, and God started breaking those walls down. And I started praying in elementary prayers. God, I want to forgive, but I don't know how. I want to forgive, but I don't know how. I want to break through, but I don't know how to break through. I want to bless him, but I'm scared to take my hand off the doorknob. I'm scared. I don't know how to pray. I don't know how to praise you in the hallway. And I just got really real with God that day and on my truth. And when I tell you, it wasn't a miracle the next day. I think that's where we mess up, is we start feeling a little bit better after a very hard season. And then we abort the whole process of healing because we get ahead of God because we felt a little bit better. So we jumped ahead. We get in another relationship before we should. And then you get another divorce. That's what stinks. And then you get mad at God because you're like, you hate me. And he's like, no, you won't sit down. You won't just let me heal you. And man, I'm just so thankful I did, sis. I sat down and I really started pouring into myself. I went after all the books. I don't read books. I just never read books because I was a special ed. I don't understand when I read. And that was what the enemy used to keep me from educating myself. And I started buying books that spoke to me. The titles spoke to me about healing, I just went after it. I would listen to podcasts, YouTubes. I never turned on Netflix. I didn't watch TV. I just started pouring into myself every day. I had to go get a job, and I hated that job. I had to work at Bloomingdale's doing makeup, and I don't know how to do makeup, still don't know how to do makeup, but I did it for 5 years. And that's where my ministry was birthed, was with women. I would just sit for 45 minutes and listen to their stories of recovery. And I remember the first week I was at Bloomingdale's putting makeup on people at Estee Lauder. That first day I was scared to death. I was like, oh God, I don't even know how to do makeup. I'm going to so get fired. And my kids need me to have a job because I need to pay for their food. And I just learned how to walk in there, and I would, for 45 minutes, just be like, man, you are so beautiful. I would just love on this person, really faking it, you know, because I didn't know how to do makeup. So I was just saying whatever I had to say to get them to feel beautiful, so they'd buy whatever I put on them. So really, you know, I just was faking it till I made it. And luckily, through that process, after a week, I started realizing, man, I'm walking out of the store brand new. I'm not depressed anymore. I went home and cleaned my room up. Man, my car was clean. I was feeling life. I was driving down the road, and I was like, oh my God, the trees are beautiful. I mean, the surface girl was leaving. That depression was leaving my life. I was breaking generational curse off of me, a depression that had ran in my family forever. That feeling of being a failure was leaving my life. That feeling of being stupid was leaving my life. And it was all because I realized my purpose was always in blessing someone else. Yeah. And I think that's where I found, you know, this message that I have, because in the next 4 years, I worked at Bloomingdale's, and every single day I would drive an hour to work and an hour home, and I would turn on every preaching preacher I could find. And I would sit in that car, and TDJs, get ready, get ready, get ready. I'd go, pause, get ready, get ready. I mean, I was like, I literally was getting so filled with Jesus that if a mosquito would have bit me, it would have got saved. I mean, I found me, sis, in the midst of my brokenness. I took myself off of the clearance rack, put myself back on that couture rack. I realized that I didn't have to go to seminary to be used of God. I started doing these 2-minute videos, because I was driving this car that was a piece of crap. And every day this car, it was a Chrysler, looked like a Bentley on the outside, but tore up on the inside. And I would be sitting on the side of the road almost every day because it would be overheating. And so I would sit on for the whole time the car was overheating, I would be doing a video. And I just started putting these videos on social media because I was feeling so good. I didn't know what else to do. And so I would just sit in my car and give these 2-minute encouragements. And I know you're sitting on the side of the road, you feel like giving up, but don't you give up, get up. I mean, they weren't even that profound, but just hope. And I was really preaching to myself. And one day, one of those videos went viral. And all of a sudden I wake up and I have 100,000 subscribers on Facebook. I'm reading the comments, and they're like, why is she always in her car? Why is she always in her car? I'd be like, because I broke down. And now I look back, and luckily I used the blessing of that season of God giving me exposure. And I was already prepared for what God was going to do in my life, because I prepared during the seasons of driving to work and back. You know, I was using that time as my Bible school. And luckily I was ready. And so now it's been 7 years, just turned 7 years of being full-time ministry. So basically I thought my life was over at 36. Had to move back with my mom and dad for 5 years. At 40 years old, God let me go full-time ministry because those videos put me on the map. And I started preaching at conferences, scared to death, feeling so unqualified. And I just realized at that moment that the prayer over those few years preparing, I never dreamed in a million years that God was going to let me do what I'm doing. I never in a million years thought I would write 4 books by 47. My face is in the airport. You know, I just never dreamed in a million years that restoration would look so good. I never dreamed in a million years that every time I said Ephesians 3:20, God's going to do exceedingly abundantly more than you could ever ask or think. I never even could fathom what exceedingly abundantly was going to look like. And so at 36 years old, I thought my life was over. At 40, I went full-time ministry. At 42, I wrote my first book. At 46, I did my first podcast that's blown up. And at 47, which I am today, I realized my life is just beginning. So for that person that is out there that feels like, man, I've done so much wrong, God's forgotten about me, don't you dare give up. The Bible says, do not get weary in well-doing, for in due season you shall reap if you faint not. Mm-hmm. That due season's not on the calendar. This due season comes because when you wanted to give up, you got up. Mm-hmm. When you realize that as long as God has a pulse, as long as I have a pulse, God has a plan for my life. Mm-hmm. You have to believe in you when nobody believes in you. When I wrote my first book, I'll never forget, I put that book out and not one family member bought my book. Not one single person supported my ministry because they remember the old Kim. Mm-hmm. It's so hard for people that knew the train wreck to ever believe it was possible that God can really do. I mean, we preach about miracles, but we don't really believe, really. Do we believe that God can really raise the dead or change somebody that was terrible into an incredible preacher and servant of the Lord? And I remember during that season seeing that nobody was supporting me. And I remember I was like, God, I just want vindication. And I remember God said, you keep living so nobody believes it, and I'll vindicate you. Mm. And I just kept plowing. I didn't allow myself to get bitter. I'm the queen of watching my heart. The Proverbs 4 says, guard your heart because out of it flows the issues of life. I didn't get angry because I could have. That's where the enemy keeps getting us, y'all. You got to keep looking for those pitfalls. You write a whole book and then you don't even enjoy, you don't even enjoy the excitement that you wrote a book and the first one in your family to write a book because people around you aren't supporting you, right? Maybe God's testing you to see, why are you writing this book? Are you writing this book because you want them to see you and give you accolades? Because you need their approval? Because you've walked your whole life needing people approval? When I'm the only one that needs to give you approval. And so I think I got right there in that season, I got healed from people. I remember I just started praying, God, don't let me get bitter. Don't let me be angry about this. Don't let me get stuck. Don't let me feel like I'm not validated because people don't see me. I'm over here wanting validation from people that really aren't even valid, for what I need them. I'm looking for accolades that only God can do. And so I did exactly what God did. And girl, they all work with me now. My whole family works with me, I outlived the old Kim. Mm. And my boys now, laying in that bed depressed, they don't remember that girl. Right. All they see is the woman that loves people back to life. The woman that God trusts. They don't remember that. So for that woman out there, that man out there, that maybe you've done everything they said you did, but you're no longer that person. Once you come to know Jesus, all old things are passed away. Karma doesn't have to bite your butt when you have grace. When God's mercy meets your mess, he changes everything. And so I kept writing the books, thank God. And so for all those people out there, man, it's never too late. 40 years old, what? And look what God's done in my life. So today, your job is to get up and believe in yourself. Go buy yourself a birthday cake. Stop being mad and stop being a victim in your own story because nobody sees the greatness in you. And you see the greatness in yourself. I remember God said, don't vindicate yourself. You just live so nobody believes it, and I'll vindicate you. And I literally watched Beautifully Broken was that first book. I watched in the first 3 months, that book did $30,000. And I remember God told me in that season, he said, I will send 1 ounce of obedience will do more for you than all the prayer in the world. Mm-hmm. He said, at that moment, basically what he was saying to me was because you wrote a book, because you didn't feel qualified. You didn't feel, you didn't know where commas went. You did it anyway. He said, watch what I'll do. Man, I'm going to tell you, girl, I would watch all these people buying that book and I'd be like, Mama, look, my haters, people that were talking about me through my last divorce, they're buying my book. And she's like, baby, they're buying that book to see if they're in it. But they're supporting your ministry. And so, today I can testify that I've got joy, I've got peace. I'm not angry at nobody. I got such forgiveness in my heart. I love like Jesus loves. My biggest prayer was, God, I went from hating people to loving people is my favorite hobby. And my prayer is that every time I say I love you to somebody, they say, I know you do. I want to be you with skin on it. And I think it was only because when I wanted to give up, I got up. Y'all got to realize that a lot of times separation means elevation. A lot of times when you feel like you're alone and you feel like you're overlooked, it's really God separating you to take you higher. He's got to get some things off of you. He's got to get some people that aren't supposed to go to your next level with you out of your life. Mm-hmm. And so your decision today has to be, I'm going to make a commitment to believe in the call that God has on my life, even if nobody else does. And they'll come around. You watch. But can God trust you with the little? Can God trust you at Walgreens bagging groceries until he opens the door for you? Can God trust you put makeup on people for $9 an hour? And you be faithful at it, not stealing time in the stock room on Facebook? Can God trust you to be that single mama and pour into those babies while you have such a purpose on the inside of you? Because he will give it all back. I'm telling you, when it's time for one season to end and another one to open, he will give you back everything that you sacrificed. It ain't over. So as long as you ain't dead, God ain't done. You got to get your butt up.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that so much. And last year was a really difficult year for me because I released my book, and then it was kind of like I was saying, you're not ready. I'm going to prune you some more. I'm going to take you somewhere. Just like you were saying, I'm going to isolate you. I'm going to take you from everybody, and it's going to be just you. And whenever I want the right people to reach out, they'll reach out. But I want it to be me and you. And that was a very hard time. Girl, I found you during that time.
Oh,
I'm telling you, I like just your sermons and going through hell and coming out on fire and all of that was part of me last year going through that. And then where God has me this year and understanding all of it. And even I just read her book, Shut Hell Up. It is so good. But as I was reading it, I was like, there's so many similarities to us.
Yeah.
I was also in school. I felt so stupid and never good enough, and those lies would just continue in my head. And who would write a book or even try to? But then God's on the other side and said, "I want you to tell your story."
Come on.
I love this. That God does not call the qualified; He qualifies the called.
Yes.
I tell myself that over and over again.
Yes.
Those voices. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
You are so welcome, and I'm so proud of you because. The biggest challenge whenever you are feeling that, God, man, this is hell. What we're going through right now is hell. Like we just can't even, none of us prepared for a pandemic. None of us ever could have even prepared for the world to shut down for 14 weeks. You know what I'm saying? So at this moment is when you got to be paying such close attention to your mental health. Basically what you went through last year or what I've gone through in years and even last year too. It's like one of the hardest years of my life. The unexpected hell is what takes your breath away. Mm-hmm. And the key is to always, every time you start wanting to fear, every time you start trying to figure it out, every time you start trying to wrap your mind around it, every time your heart starts palpitating and you're like, oh my God, I can't do this. You got to keep pushing. Yes. Even if you got to pull your big old thick thigh, you got to keep moving. You can't pull the covers over. The one thing that I heard about COVID was the key to COVID is when you want to stay in the bed, you got to get up. Yes. The key is to keep moving. You don't want to move. It feels like there's needles in your lungs is what they said. But the key is to keep moving. That's the same thing with your break, with that divorce or with that cancer, or with that chemotherapy, or with that, man, losing everything. People are losing their 401ks right now. They're losing all their savings. You want to quit, but that is not your option. Yeah. Your option, what kept you going, sis, was you wasn't your option. What kept me going is it's not an option. Like, I don't have the option of falling apart. Right. Why? Because God is trusting us. Mama, God is trusting you with those kids. God is trusting you, sir, with those kids. God is trusting you with this sickness. God is trusting you with this divorce. Well, why? If he's a good father, because there's something being produced. Oh my God. Through the breaking, through the crying, through the, man, those tears. There's a reason why he said, I'm numbering your tears and I'm putting them in a bottle. Man, just because he knew we were going to have seasons where we were going to be like, I can't do this. Yeah. He's like, oh, yes, you can, and you will. Oh, yes, you can, and you will. And I need you to feel every ounce of this pain. I need you to feel every ounce of this isolation, because you're going to make it, but somebody else ain't going to make it. And you're going to have to be their hands and their feet. You're going to have to believe in them and yell at them in their face and say, you're going to get up is what you're going to do. You ain't going to abort your mission. You're not going to abort that book. You're not going to throw that book away because it didn't do well that first year. No, that's what you and I can do for others now, because we made it through. And so for every person today, man, that feels like giving up is not your option. It's an option, but it ain't your option. Giving up only prolongs you in a season you hate. Giving up makes you stop. And then you walk around saying, I'm stuck. I hear I will be in a room of, God, thousands of people, and I'll say, how many people feel stuck? And 90% of the people stand up. The only reason you're stuck is because you stop moving. You're not stuck. You're not a tree. You're stuck because you took a blow that you didn't expect was coming. And then it took your breath away. You were trying to get your breath back to get back up again and start over. And you didn't get back up. You got to get up today. Nobody can get you up but you and God. Nobody can make you start over but you and God. Nobody can tell your heart to beat again but you and God. No therapist, no medicine, no alcohol, no drug, no cut in your closet. Nothing is going to heal this but a decision in your head that says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And you realize this, baby. Thieves don't rob empty vaults. The enemy ain't coming after you because you're weak. He's fighting you because you're strong. Yeah. He is a punk. He is the only punk that ever got kicked out of heaven. And now he wants you to abort your mission because you are the apple of God's eye. He ain't messing with you because you're weak. He ain't messing with you because everybody in my family's living on food stamps. Well, you ain't. You ain't going to stay there. You might be a single mama. You might have got pregnant out of wedlock. Your daughter, you had this huge plan for your daughter to go to Harvard, and she made straight A's, and then all of a sudden she comes home and says, I'm pregnant. And you're falling apart thinking you are ruining your life. You have to be able to bounce back from these things and stop letting these things ruin your life. Yes. When things are knocked out of place and it's not in your cards, it's not on your dream board, your job is to be like a chameleon in the spirit and move. Move. Even if you're paying for some things you did in your past and they're coming back to haunt you, don't you dare allow yourself to mute because somebody brings something and says, I got videos of you 3 years ago doing this and this. And all of a sudden the enemy's using these little people. Don't you dare. You get louder. Yeah. Don't you dare allow your past or another person or a situation or something. And don't you dare allow yourself to be stuck because of a stupid season. Yeah. Get up and be loud.
Yes. And I love that because I noticed that you said that, you put it all out there in your books, and I did the same. And, and I didn't.
It's freedom, ain't it?
It's so much freedom. And I'm just now releasing it this summer, but it's like, there were so many voices of people are going to judge you and, or rejection and shame. And I was like, if I can tell my first story of what I went through, then that road that I was on for so many years, running with the devil because I can be very honest about that because of who I am today.
Yes.
And there's freedom in that, and it feels so good.
Man, it's so crazy, girl, because you run from stuff that ain't even chasing you.
So true.
You run your whole life with that family secret when all you got to do is expose yourself.
That's it.
You would be so shocked at the people that celebrate you because they know that you actually messed up and got back up.
Yes.
Or you were sex trafficking and you don't look like what you've been through. How in the world can you be a light to Jesus if you're ashamed of who you were? If you took away all the mistakes you made, he would take you away.
Right. Yeah. In your testimony. You would take your testimony away.
Yeah.
And I always say you got to let the light in. So like if you're watching this and you're in a room and you got the shades pulled down, I did that for years. I wanted
Me too.
Yeah, just depressed. That's depression. You just, and it's like when you just open up the window and let the light in, let God in your life, like how he can change you. And
it changes everything.
It does. Yes. Yes. Kim, I love you.
I love you so much. I'm so honored. This is a friendship cultivating now.
Yes, it is.
I love relationships, man. Relationships are where it's at.
Yes, absolutely. And, thank you for all you do, because if you wouldn't have got out of that bed, can you imagine how many lives wouldn't have changed? How many that wouldn't be on this earth right now? Like, it's just amazing what God is doing in your life is so huge. And your heart is so big and you shine so bright in all that you do. And girl, and I love that you're loud. I love that you're blingy. I love that you smile. I love it all. I love it. Because you are so real. And that's what people need is not judging them or not criticizing them, but just loving on them.
Yeah.
This world needs so bad.
Yes. And it's easy for me. I really love people. So it works.
Yes.
I'm excited about your new book.
Thank you.
What a great name, Boss. Breakout Silent Soldier. Man.
Yeah. And
that's prophetic.
Is Boss, it's Breakout Silent Sinner. And that's all the skeletons coming out.
Oh, wow. I love it. I can't wait to read it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, guys.
You're welcome.
You have got to follow her on Instagram. She gives you so many golden nuggets throughout the day. I'm telling you, blessings after blessings. She has an app that I follow that is amazing. Declarations are on that app. She's several books out. Google Real Talk Kim. Follow her. She will change your life. I'm telling you. She is absolutely amazing.
Thank you, beautiful girl.
Bottom of my heart for
Keep being a world changer, man. I love me some boss chicks. You hear me? I love boss chicks that are conquering hell in high heels. You go, girl.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
I love you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being
here. Bye, everybody. Love y'all.
Thank you so much for watching. And listening. We'll see you next time, guys.